certain you could not duplicate 3 such treasures in any bookshop in Britain. I examined them critically, and saw at once that what he said was true. He was still standing on the opposite side of the table. "Please take a chair, Mr. Macpherson. Do you mean to say you go round London with £150 worth of goods under your arm in this careless way?" The young man laughed. "I run very little risk, Mr. Webster. I don't suppose anyone I meet imagines for a moment there is more under my arm than perhaps a trio of volumes I have picked up in the fourpenny box to take home with me." I lingered over the volume for which he asked £100, and then said, looking across at him, "How came you to be possessed of this book, for instance?" He turned upon me a fine, open countenance, and answered without hesitation, in the frankest possible manner, "I am not in actual possession of it, Mr. Webster. I am by way of being a connoisseur in rare and valuable books myself, although, of course, I have little money with which to indulge in the collection of them. I am acquainted, however, with the lovers of desirable books in different quarters of London. These 3 volumes, for instance, are from the library of a private gentleman in the West End. I have sold many books to him, and he knows I am trustworthy. He wishes to dispose of them at something under their real value, and has kindly allowed me to conduct the negotiation. I make it my business to find out those who are interested in rare books, and by such trading I add considerably to my income." "How, for instance, did you learn that I was a bibliophile?" Mr. Macpherson laughed genially. "Well, Mr. Webster, I must confess that I chanced it. I do that very often. I take a flat like this, and send in my card to the name on the door. If I am invited in, I ask the occupant the question I asked you just now: are you interested in rare editions? If he says no, I simply beg pardon and retire. If he says yes, then I show my wares." "I see," said I, nodding. What a glib young liar he was, with that innocent face of his, and yet my next question brought forth the truth. "As this is the first time you have called upon me, Mr. Macpherson, you have no objection to my making some further inquiry, I suppose? Would you mind telling me the name of the owner of these books in the West End?" "His name is Mr. Ralph Summertrees, of Park Lane." "Of Park Lane? Ah, indeed. I shall be glad to leave the books with you, Mr. Webster, and if you care to make an appointment with Mr. Summertrees, I am sure he will not object to say a word in my favour." "Oh, I do not in the least doubt it, and should not think of troubling the gentleman." "I was going to tell you," went on the young man, "that I have a friend, a capitalist, who in a way is my supporter, for, as I said, I have little money of my own. I find it is often inconvenient for people to pay down any considerable sum. When, however, I strike a bargain, my capitalist buys the book, and I make an arrangement with my customer to pay a certain amount each week, and so even a large purchase is not felt, as I make the instalments small enough to suit my client." "You are employed during the day, I take it?" "Yes, I am a clerk in the city." Again we were in the blissful realms of fiction. "Suppose I take this book at £10. What instalment should I have to pay each week?" "Oh, what you like, sir. Would 5 shillings be too much?" "I think not." "Very well, sir. If you pay me 5 shillings now, I will leave the book with you, and shall have pleasure in calling this day week for the next instalment." I put my hand into my pocket and drew out 2 half-crowns, which I passed over to him. "Do I need to sign any form or undertaking to pay the rest?" The young man laughed cordially. "Oh, no, sir, there is no formality necessary. You see, sir, this is largely a labour of love with me, although I don't deny I have my eye on the future. I am getting together what I hope will be a very valuable connection with gentlemen like yourself who are fond of books, and I trust some day that I may be able to resign my place with the insurance company and set up a choice little business of my own, where my knowledge of values in literature will prove useful." And then, after making a note in a little book he took from his pocket, he bade me a most graceful good-bye and departed, leaving me cogitating over what it all meant. Next morning 2 articles were handed to me. The first came by post, and was a pamphlet on Christian Science and Absent-mindedness, exactly similar to the one I had taken away from the old curiosity shop. The second was a small key made from my wax impression that would fit the front door of the same shop, a key fashioned by an excellent anarchist friend of mine in an obscure street near Holborn. That night at 10 o'clock I was inside the old curiosity shop, with a small storage battery in my pocket and a little electric glow lamp at my buttonhole, a most useful instrument for either burglar or detective. I had expected to find the books of the establishment in a safe, which, if it was similar to the one in Park Lane, I was prepared to open with the false keys in my possession, or to take an impression of the keyhole and trust to my anarchist friend for the rest. But to my amazement I discovered all the papers pertaining to the concern in a desk which was not even locked. The books, 3 in number, were the ordinary day book, journal, and ledger referring to the shop. Bookkeeping of the older fashion, but in a portfolio lay half a dozen foolscap sheets headed Mr. Rogers' list, Mr. Macpherson's, Mr. Tyrrell's, the names I had already learned, and 3 others. These lists contained in the first column names, in the second column addresses, in the third sums of money, and then in the small square places following were amounts ranging from 2 and 6pence to £1. At the bottom of Mr. Macpherson's list was the name Allport Webster, Imperial Flats, L10. Then, in the small square place, 5 shillings. These 6 sheets, each headed by a canvasser's name, were evidently the record of current collections, and the innocence of the whole thing was so apparent that if it were not for my fixed rule never to believe that I am at the bottom of any case until I have come on something suspicious, I would have gone out empty-handed as I came in. The 6 sheets were loose in a thin portfolio, but standing on a shelf above the desk were a number of fat volumes, one of which I took down, and saw that it contained similar lists running back several years. I noticed on Mr. Macpherson's current list the name of Lord Semptam, an eccentric old nobleman whom I knew slightly. Then, turning to the list immediately before the current one, the name was still there. I traced it back through list after list until I found the first entry, which was no less than 3 years previous, and there Lord Semptam was down for a piece of furniture costing £50, and on that account he had paid £1 a week for more than 3 years, totalling £170 at the least. And instantly the glorious simplicity of the scheme dawned upon me, and I became so interested in the swindle that I lit the gas, fearing my little lamp would be exhausted before my investigation ended, for it promised to be a long one. In several instances the intended victim proved shrewder than O. Simpson had counted upon, and the word settled had been written on the line carrying the name when the exact number of instalments was paid. But as these shrewd persons dropped out, others took their places, and Simpson's dependence on their absent-mindedness seemed to be justified in 9 cases out of 10. His collectors were collecting long after the debt had been paid. In Lord Semptam's case the payment had evidently become chronic, and the old man was giving away his £1 a week to the suave Macpherson 2 years after his debt had been liquidated. From the big volume I detached the loose leaf dated 1893, which recorded Lord Semptam's purchase of a carved table for £50, and on which he had been paying £1 a week from that time to the date of which I am writing, which was November 1896. This single document, taken from the file of 3 years previous, was not likely to be missed, as would have been the case if I had selected a current sheet. I nevertheless made a copy of the names and addresses of Macpherson's present clients. Then, carefully placing everything exactly as I had found it, I extinguished the gas, and went out of the shop, locking the door behind me. With the 1893 sheet in my pocket, I resolved to prepare a pleasant little surprise for my suave friend Macpherson, when he called to get his next instalment of 5 shillings. Late as was the hour when I reached Trafalgar Square, I could not deprive myself of the felicity of calling on Mr. Spencer Hale, who I knew was then on duty. He never appeared at his best during office hours, because officialism stiffened his stalwart frame. Mentally He was impressed with the importance of his position, and added to this he was